Have you ever met someone and felt a quiet connection, something subtle, something unspoken, something you didn't plan, but it happened anyway? Maybe it was a conversation that felt a little too comfortable, a message that lingered a little too long, or a smile that stayed with you even after you walked away. You told yourself it was nothing. You told yourself, we're just friends. But your heart didn't fully believe you. And maybe, deep down, you've wondered, can men and women really be just friends? Or are we lying to ourselves because it feels easier than confronting the truth? We live in a world that constantly pushes the idea of casual friendships between men and women, no boundaries, no complications, no rules. But the human heart doesn't work like that. The heart feels, the heart attaches, the heart responds. And sometimes, the heart becomes entangled long before you even realize what's happening. Let's be honest, you didn't choose to feel this way. You didn't wake up and say, today I'll develop an emotional bond I shouldn't doubt. These things grow quietly, gently, slowly, one message, one compliment, one moment of vulnerability at a time, and suddenly, you're waiting for their texts, you're thinking about what they think of you, you're wondering if they feel the same, and somewhere along the way, the line between friendship and attachment blurred. But here's the real question Islam teaches us to ask. If your heart becomes dependent on someone, if your emotions begin to drift, is it still just friendship? And to go even deeper, is it fair to your heart, to their heart, or to Allah's guidance? Sometimes Allah allows these subtle emotional moments to wake us up, to shake our illusions, to remind us that the heart is not something to give away casually. Sometimes He allows you to feel discomfort in a friendship because your soul knows something is off, even if your mind is trying to justify it, because the truth is, the human heart is powerful, the human heart is vulnerable, and the human heart is influenced, even when we pretend it isn't. This video is not about guilt. It's not about shame. It's about clarity, about understanding the reality of the heart that Allah created. It's about opening your eyes to the truth that so many of us avoid, because it feels easier to say, we're just friends, than to ask whether this friendship is affecting your iman, your emotional boundaries, or your future relationships. Today, I want to take you on a journey into the psychology of attachment, the spiritual wisdom behind Islamic boundaries, the hidden ways hearts connect and break, and the reason why Islam protects your emotional world long before anything physical even happens. Because sometimes we don't lose ourselves through big sins, we lose ourselves through small openings, through tiny compromises, through feelings we thought we could control. So before we dive deeper, I want you to pause for a moment. Ask yourself, why do you want to know if men and women can be just friends? Is it curiosity? Or is there someone in your life right now, someone whose presence feels confusing, someone whose friendship doesn't feel as simple as you tell others, or even yourself? Whatever your situation is, know this. You're not weak, you're not strange, you're not alone. You're human, and the heart that Allah created within you is sensitive, reactive, and deeply connected to your spiritual state. So let's explore the truth together, with honesty, with purity, and with the kind of spiritual insight that can only come when you're willing to look inward. Before we talk about rulings, boundaries, or what Islam permits or discourages, we need to understand something deeper, something most people never pause to reflect on: how the human heart actually works. Because if you don't understand the design of the heart, you will keep falling into the same emotional patterns, and then wonder why moving on, letting go, or staying neutral feels impossible. Allah created the heart with a natural inclination. It attaches, it bonds, it responds to kindness, attention, and presence. This is not a flaw, it's not a weakness. It's the fitra, the pure nature Allah placed inside every human being. So when a man and a woman interact repeatedly, through conversation, emotional support, shared experiences, or even just consistent communication, the heart will naturally begin to form a subtle attachment. Sometimes without either of them intending it, sometimes without either of them realizing it. This is one of the greatest illusions modern society teaches, that men and women can interact endlessly, emotionally, casually, without anything deeper forming. But the heart does not follow the rules of society. The heart follows the way Allah created it. You see, emotional chemistry doesn't begin with a big confession or a dramatic moment. It begins quietly, with someone remembering a small detail about your day, with someone laughing at your jokes, with someone checking on you when you seem down, with someone giving you the kind of attention that feels rare, comforting, validating, and suddenly there is a spark, not always romantic, but certainly emotional, a bond, not always visible, but undeniably present. Psychologists have a name for this: micro-connections, small, repeated emotional touches that slowly build attachment. Islam has a name for this too: the heart's vulnerability. This is why the Prophet taught us that the gaze, the words, and the time we share with the opposite gender all have spiritual impact. Not because Islam is restrictive, but because Islam understands the psychology of the heart long before modern psychology even existed. Think about this. Every relationship in your life started with something small. Every love story began with a simple interaction. Every heartbreak began with a moment of openness. So is it realistic to assume that friendship between a man and woman remains neutral when the heart is anything but neutral? This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about understanding the truth. A man may not intend to lead a woman on, but his warmth does. A woman may not intend to attach, but her heart responds to kindness. Two people may not intend attraction, but consistent emotional space creates it. This is why Islam places boundaries, not because Allah wants to forbid friendship, but because He wants to protect the heart before it falls into pain. And here's another reality we rarely talk about. Men and women are wired differently. Men often misinterpret friendliness as interest. Women often misinterpret attention as emotional safety. Both assume they can control their feelings until they suddenly can't. And then the friendship becomes confusing. Someone starts expecting more. Someone gets hurt silently. Someone feels jealous. Someone feels guilty. And the relationship becomes emotionally heavy, spiritually draining, and painfully complicated. You see, the question, can men and women be just friends, isn't simply about halal or haram. It's about emotional truth. It's about spiritual honesty. It's about acknowledging human nature instead of pretending we're above it. And once we understand how the heart works, the next question becomes, if Allah created the heart to attach, what does Islam say about managing these attachments wisely and protecting the heart from unnecessary pain? That's where we move next. Before we talk about rules, let's talk about why those rules exist. Islam is not a religion of restriction. It is a religion of protection. Allah doesn't place boundaries around the heart to limit your freedom. He places boundaries around the heart to protect your dignity, your peace, your emotions, and your future. But many people look at the Islamic guidelines between men and women and think, why is Islam so strict? We're just talking. We're mature. We know how to control ourselves. But here's the truth. Islam understands your heart better than you do. You see, boundaries are not a punishment. They are wisdom. They are mercy. They are Allah's way of saving you from pain before you even see it coming. Because the human heart gets attached in stages. It starts small, an innocent compliment, a late night conversation, a moment of emotional vulnerability. And suddenly that harmless friendship begins to take emotional territory inside your heart. Allah knows this. He created your heart. He understands its sensitivity, its emotional magnetic pull, its longing for connection. And that is why Islam teaches us: lower the gaze, limit emotional dependence, maintain respectful distance, protect the private space of the heart. Not because men and women are enemies, but because they are deeply influential to each other, even without intention. But here's a question that many people avoid. If a friendship between a man and woman is truly pure, truly neutral, truly harmless, why does it need secrecy? Why does it create confusion? Why does it affect expectations? Why does it become difficult to let go? Islamic boundaries exist not to stop friendship, but to prevent emotional entanglement disguised as friendship. Because let's be honest, if either one of you starts developing feelings, if either one of you becomes emotionally dependent, if either one of you would feel hurt by the other marrying someone else, is it still just friendship? Islam honors the heart too much to let you play with something so fragile. And here's something profoundy. The Prophet didn't just give rules, he gave us psychological principles long before psychology existed. He taught, the gaze affects the heart, the tongue affects the heart, prolonged private conversation affects the heart, emotional intimacy affects the heart. This is why Islam encourages gender interaction that is purposeful, respectful, necessary, and guarded, not casual, emotional, constant, or boundaryless. Because casual emotional intimacy is the doorway to attachment even when you don't realize it. Deep down, you already know this. You've seen friendships that started innocently, but ended in heartbreak, jealousy, confusion, betrayal, or emotional exhaustion. You've seen two people swear they were just friends until one of them started dating someone else, or until someone confessed feelings, or until someone suddenly felt replaced. Islam protects you from these silent emotional traps long before they catch you. And here is the greatest wisdom in all of this. Allah wants your heart to be given with intention, not scattered in pieces through unguarded emotional access. He wants your heart to be honored, not exhausted, treasured, not confused, guarded, not played with. Islamic boundaries don't limit love, they preserve love. They don't block connection, they purify connection. They don't shut doors, they open the right ones. And once you see the beauty and protection behind these guidelines, the next question becomes, if boundaries are this important, then what actually happens to you emotionally and spiritually when these boundaries break? That's where we go next. Your heart is sacred, and Allah commands you to guard it. We often hear people talk about boundaries as if they are walls, barriers, restrictions that keep us from enjoying life. But Allah does not place walls around you to imprison you. He places boundaries around you to protect the most sacred part of you, your heart. And the truth is this: emotional boundaries are not about limiting relationships. They are about preserving your peace, your clarity, and your connection with Allah. Let's begin with something simple but often ignored. The heart does not get attached through major events. It gets attached through small openings, a casual conversation, a shared laugh, a moment of vulnerability, a message sent late at night when you're not at your strongest, a compliment that landed deeper than you expected. And are you okay? At the exact time you needed someone to care. We underestimate how quickly emotional dependency forms. One message becomes 10. One moment becomes a habit. One connection becomes an emotional anchor. And anchors are powerful. They can either stabilize you or drag you into waters you were never meant to drown in. This is why Allah, in His infinite wisdom, commands us to guard the gaze, to preserve modesty, to avoid being in private communication without purpose, to be mindful of softness in speech, and to maintain dignity. Not because men and women are weak, but because hearts are sensitive. We think boundaries are about controlling behavior, but they are really about protecting the space where feelings grow, often silently, often unnoticed. Here is the part we rarely admit. When you share daily details of your life with someone, when you let them see you emotionally, when you give them access to your thoughts, your concerns, your bad days, your hopes, you are handing them the keys to your heart one piece at a time. And once the heart leans, once it attaches, once it finds comfort, Undoing that attachment becomes painful. Allah is not trying to limit friendship. He is trying to save you from the heartbreak that comes when relationships grow outside the structure He designed. Look around you. How many people are emotionally shattered because they bonded with someone they were never meant to? You see it everywhere. A sister who fell into emotional confusion because she opened her heart just a little. A brother who lost spiritual focus because his feelings became tied to someone unavailable. Two people who started with innocent friendship, only to end with wounds they are still trying to heal. Emotional attachment is not a toy. It is a sacred rope, and the Prophet warned us repeatedly about its power. Islam is not telling you not to feel. Islam is teaching you how to feel safely and purely without compromising your dignity or your relationship with Allah. So what do emotional boundaries really protect? 1. They protect your clarity. When your heart becomes attached, you stop seeing reality clearly. Boundaries keep your mind and emotions aligned. 2. They protect your peace. You don't live in anxiety, overthinking, or longing for someone who was never written for you. 3. They protect your spiritual energy. You stop pouring emotional attention into places that pull you away from Allah. 4. They protect your future. Your heart remains whole for the one Allah has written for you, without being bruised by unnecessary attachment. 5. They protect your dignity. You don't become emotionally dependent on someone who cannot honor you. Boundaries are not signs of fear. They are signs of self-respect, emotional awareness, and spiritual maturity. They say, my heart belongs to Allah first, and I will not hand it to anyone without His permission. And that is one of the most empowering spiritual decisions a person can make. There comes a moment in every believer's life when they look at the rules of Allah and ask quietly, but why? Why does Islam place such clear boundaries between men and women? Why does it tell us to guard the heart, lower the gaze, and maintain a respectful distance? And maybe, if you've ever had a deep bond with someone who understood you, listened to you, connected with you emotionally, you've also wondered if these limits are too strict, too heavy, too difficult. But here is the truth Islam teaches us. Allah does not set boundaries to punish you. He sets them to protect you, not from other people, but from your own heart. Because the heart is fragile. It attaches quickly. It assumes purity where purity may not exist. It builds hope where no promise was made. And it turns a simple conversation into an emotional dependency without you even realizing it. You see, Islam recognizes something modern society ignores. Men and women were created with natural attraction, not evil, not shameful, not dirty, just real, just powerful, and just dangerous when it's not placed in the right container. When Allah tells you, "Don't go near zina," He isn't talking only about the final act. He's talking about the slow, subtle steps that lead the heart into something it was never meant to carry outside of marriage. That late night conversation that made your heart feel alive, that friendship you kept calling just emotional support. That person who became your comfort, your escape, your safe place, even though they were never yours. It's not the person that harms you. It's the access. It's the emotional energy. It's the soft spot you didn't guard. It's the space you gave someone that belonged to Allah first and your future spouse second. And here is where the deeper spiritual truth enters. Allah places boundaries to honor your heart, not break it. He draws limits because He knows that the deepest human bond between a man and a woman cannot remain neutral forever. Someone's heart will lean. Someone will fall. And someone will break. Modern culture says, men and women are the same. Friendship is harmless. Feelings don't mean anything. But Islam says your heart is sacred. Your emotions are valuable. Your vulnerability is precious. And nothing precious is ever left unprotected. Allah knows the heart is the doorway to every action. If the heart is guarded, everything else is guarded. If the heart is exposed, everything else becomes vulnerable. This is why Allah sets boundaries, clear, merciful, protective boundaries. Keep interactions purposeful, keep conversations dignified, keep distance respectful, keep your heart close to Allah. And most importantly, keep emotional intimacy for the one who will walk into your life through his name, not through temptation or accidental closeness. Because the truth is this: the moment emotional intimacy enters, the friendship is no longer just friendship. Islam doesn't forbid closeness. It redirects it. It channels it. It preserves it for the right relationship, at the right time, with the right person. A boundary from Allah is not a restriction, it is a shield, it is a mercy, it is a way of telling you your heart is too precious to be handed casually to someone who was never written for you. And when you finally meet the person Allah does right for you, when you taste love that is halal, pure, safe, blessed, you will look back and say, Subhanallah, this is why Allah protected me. There comes a moment at the end of every honest conversation when we must pause, breathe, and face our own heart with sincerity. This is that moment, because after exploring boundaries, intentions, emotional temptation, and the quiet whispers of the heart, we arrive at a truth that is not just Islamic, but deeply human. We are not as strong as we think we are, and Allah does not expect us to be. He expects us to be wise. He expects us to recognize the places where our heart becomes vulnerable, where our desires begin to blur spiritual lines, where closeness invites confusion, and where emotional intimacy silently opens the door to something we never intended. And this is where many people misunderstand the Islamic answer to men. Islam does not come with harshness. It does not say, do not speak, do not interact, or cut everyone out. Islam only says, do not place your heart in a situation where you may lose it. Because once the heart slips, it does not ask for permission. And perhaps the most important reminder is this: Islamic boundaries are not meant to imprison you. They are meant to protect the most delicate part of you, your heart. Allah created you with emotions. He created attraction. He created softness between the sexes. He created the heart with a nature that pulls desires, hopes, and dreams. So when Allah advises caution, it is because He knows how the heart works even before you feel it yourself. We live in a world that romanticizes harmless friendship between men and women, but let's be honest for a moment, a deep, genuine honesty. Most emotional affairs do not begin with flirting. They begin with friendship. Most heartbreaks do not come from strangers. They come from someone I knew, someone I trusted. Most spiritual derailments do not start with sin. They start with comfort. I feel understood. I feel safe talking to him. She listens to me. He gets me. She's just someone I talk to when I'm stressed. It feels innocent until it isn't. It feels light until emotions deepen. It feels controlled until control is lost. And the heart, once awakened, does not quietly go back to sleep. That is why Allah, in His infinite wisdom, teaches modesty, boundaries, intentionality, lowered gaze, clear purpose, and emotional discipline. Not because friendship itself is sinful, but because the heart is fragile. And Allah does not want you to pay the price for something that began with good intentions. So here is the final reminder. When Islam sets boundaries, it is not because Allah wants to restrict your life. It is because He wants to protect your future. He wants your emotional energy to go into the right places. He wants your heart safe for the person who truly deserves it. He wants you free from complicated attachments, silent longing, and relationships that drain your amen. And most importantly, He wants you to experience love the way He designed it, within the security of commitment, respect, faith, and clarity. Because anything outside of that, no matter how innocent it looks, carries the risk of becoming the very thing that breaks you. So if you must interact, do so with purpose. If you must communicate, do so with professionalism. If you must collaborate, do so with boundaries. And if you feel your heart slipping, pull back before you fall. Your heart is too valuable to be risked casually. Guard it, protect it, honor it, and trust that the one who created the heart knows exactly how to keep it safe. As we reach the closing moments of this reminder, I want you to pause for just a second and breathe. Not the kind of breath you take when you're simply inhaling air, but the kind you take when your heart is absorbing truth. Because this topic, men and women being just friends, is not just a rule or a restriction or a cultural notion. It's deeply spiritual. It's about the protection of hearts, the clarity of intentions, and the preservation of dignity. Allah, in His mercy, does not place boundaries to limit our happiness. He places them so we can protect what He honored within us, our hearts, our chastity, our emotional well-being. And when we ignore those boundaries, we don't break the rules, we break ourselves, and maybe that's the real wisdom we need to walk away with. When you try to maintain a friendship with the opposite gender, even when both of you intend purity, something subtle begins to shift. One person starts giving more attention. Another person starts relying emotionally. Someone begins to feel seen, valued, heard, in a way that was never meant to come from outside the halal framework. And slowly, silently, hearts get involved. Islam is not against connection. Islam is not against friendship. Islam is not against companionship. But Islam insists that the context is correct, the intentions are clean, and the boundaries are real, not imagined. When you remove those boundaries, people suffer, expectations grow, jealousy appears, emotional attachment forms, and then heartbreak enters, not because people are weak, but because hearts were never meant to be exposed without purpose. Allah says in the Quran, "Do not approach what is unlawful." Notice He didn't say, "Do not do it." He said, "Don't even come near it." Why? Because Allah knows that human beings don't fall into emotional traps suddenly. They slide into them slowly. A message here, a joke there, a shared struggle, a late-night conversation, a shoulder to cry on. Small steps that don't feel dangerous until they are. And that is the essence of today's message. Not that men and women can never speak, not that collaboration is forbidden, not that we must live in fear of one another. No, the point is to live with consciousness, with intentionality, with purity, with God awareness. Because anything done without boundaries will cause harm, and anything done within the boundaries of Allah becomes a source of blessing. So today, I want you to ask yourself honestly, have I kept someone in my life under the label of just friends while my heart is paying the price? Is there a connection I'm holding on to, even though I know it blurs lines Allah asked me to keep clear? Is this friendship pulling me closer to Allah, or pulling me away from Him? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, remember this. Letting go for the sake of Allah never results in loss. Allah never takes anything from your life without preparing something better, cleaner, purer, holier for your heart. Maybe the relationship ended because Allah is protecting you from a future heartbreak. Maybe the distance happened because Allah wants to redirect your emotional energy towards someone who is halal for you. Maybe Allah is preparing you for a marriage built on respect, love, and true companionship, not a confusing interaction without clarity. So as we close this reminder, I invite you to take a moment and do something courageous. Choose Allah's way. Choose purity. Choose boundaries that honor your heart. Choose relationships that are halal, purposeful, and blessed. And now your turn to participate. Comment below. What resonated with you the most today? Have you ever experienced a just friendship turning into emotional attachment? Your reflection might help someone else heal. And if you found this reminder beneficial, like the video, share it with someone who needs this wisdom, and subscribe to Jana Essence for more deep Islamic reminders, heart healing talks, and soul reflective messages. Because this journey of purifying the heart, we walk it together.